What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Wanted to do something a little bit different today and just share some insight. I've been on the tournament scene now for the last 5 or 6 years and have gained some valuable perspective. Fished a couple Bassmaster Opens, a couple other boat tournaments, and predominantly kayak tournaments. The knowledge that I'm going to share with you are just my insight, and I guess it could just be opinion. Can be applied for any type of tournaments in the fishing world, whether it be crappie, bass, species, salt, open water, freshwater, hard water, you name it. This can be applied to tournaments across the board. So I just wanted to share this because as we get into the new 2022 season, we hear of things like this happening all the time. People being unethical, people crossing the line, people doing things that are shady. And what I really wanted to do in this video is share some of the do's and don'ts in tournament fishing so that newer anglers kind of knew, what the code is, what the unwritten rules were, or how to avoid getting a bad reputation in this sport, because that does happen and it can just be one mess up and that could ruin your reputation for the rest of the season. So let's dive in. First off, when you're fishing a tournament, it goes without saying that putting in your own work, finding your own fish, is generally the best way to not only be successful, but to earn the respect of your peers. So when you're going to a new body of water, sure, there's some networking that happens. You can do some independent research, talk to your buddies, but if you hear about people being on a certain bite or fishing a certain area and you go and show up in that area thinking you can catch their fish, one, that's not going to do anything for your longevity and becoming a better angler, because you're not really learning anything going and chasing other people's fish. That just goes without saying. So I want to really encourage y'all to put in the work, find your own fish. Number 2, probably one of the most common things is, say you found the same spot. You practiced, found a little backwater pond that's loaded with fish, very, very small, can probably fish maybe 1 or 2 people tops over the course of a couple days. And you find it and you hear at the ramp that somebody else is planning on going to that same spot. What do you do? So the best way to handle this is just simple communication. If you take the route and you say, well, I'm just going to beat him to that spot or beat this person to that spot, that can either go one or 2 ways. The guy can back off and give you the spot, or it can create a confrontation on the water, which again, no one really wants to deal with that, especially when they're fishing a tournament. So the way that I like to handle this, personally, if I find out that I'm fishing an area and I might have some company, I go right up to those anglers, if I hear them talking about it, and I just simply say, hey, it sounds like we might be fishing the same spot. I fish some practice, try to learn what they're fishing or where they're fishing. And if it's a larger area, sometimes I have no problem sharing water with somebody else. But I always like to deal with that and handle that with just communication. It's courteous, it's respectful, it's the right thing to do. And 9 times out of 10, when this happens, the other angler has no issues as long as you are honest and you communicate. So if the angler if I get that vibe or the body language that they're very possessive over this spot, because of my reputation in the sport, and the fact that I don't need to cash checks to make a living in this sport, I will always just let that angler have the spot, take the high road. And I feel like I'm a decent enough of an angler that I can go and do something else. And typically when I go into a tournament, I don't just have one spot, I've got several. And if someone wants to start on my best spot and they're unwilling to share it, I let them have it. I'm respectful of that, and I go do something different. That's just the way I handle it. I know that's probably not the popular way, but I've found long-term that does more for my reputation, and it lets other people know that, hey, I can go somewhere else and catch fish. You go ahead and have it. But like I said, y'all, usually most anglers out there are very okay if they found the same spot, practice there, sharing water. As long as you're respectful, you're not fishing right on top of them. And this can usually vary spot to spot or how the spot sets up. but give the person a little bit of space, work together. Sometimes that works out in your favor because you can keep other kayakers or other boats out of the area if two people found the same spot. Now, if multiple people found the spot, those are areas that I like to call community holes, and you're not going to catch me fishing those, but that's just if you're fishing a community hole, you better just make peace with the fact that you're going to have some company. So when you're fishing community holes, a good rule of thumb, some tournaments range from 50 to 100 yards of space between competitors. And that's just respectful. But again, when you're on the water and you're finding yourself in this situation, just simply communicate. Give the other angler the respect and communicate with them. Now, if you're fishing a multi-day event, and this has happened to me several times over the course of the last few years. It's happened in the professional series. I hear it happen to friends. It happens way more than it should, and it's kind of disappointing. So this last one I really want to hammer. When you're fishing a 2-day event and you don't do very well on day one, and when I mean don't do very well, you're out of the conversation going into day 2, and you go and do something different, and you end up going near the spot where a person who's in contention to cash a check is fishing. So say, you fish an area, you didn't do very well there, you go to a different area and you go there and find out the person that's leading the tournament or a person that's in contention to win the tournament is fishing that area. Stay away from that area. That is just out of respect for the other angler that has probably been fishing there, fished it well, made the right choices on the first day, and is in contention to do really, really well. Now, for whatever reason, some guys seem to have, and gals, seem to have kind of an ego problem with this. Whether they can't take that big slice of humble pie that they didn't catch them on day 1, and they find out where people are catching them on day 2, and they want to go try to poach that spot. Y'all, I'm going to tell you right now, if doing something like that and cashing a check means more to you than sacrificing those ethics and your character, you probably shouldn't be tournament fishing. You should probably go get a job at a Subway or something else where you get a consistent paycheck and you don't have to reduce yourself to those types of practices. Because doing things like that is only going to get you a terrible reputation in the sport. It's not going to earn you much respect, and it's just a really, really bad look. So like I said, if you're fishing multi-day events, 2, 3, 4 days events, I know this happens a lot more than it should, like I said, and you stumble upon an area or you hear about someone that's doing really, really well, stay away from that spot. And it builds character. Going and poaching somebody's spot when you may have practiced there during practice and caught a couple of fish, but chose not to fish there for the tournament, and you found out someone fished there and did really, really well, that's a mistake you made. Own it. Go do something else. Try to salvage your day, but don't do it at the expense of somebody else. That's pretty much a good overall basis of how to be respectful. And also, if you know where anglers are fishing and doing really well, keep your mouth shut. They probably don't want that information out there for a reason. Be respectful of that information. I've learned throughout the years, keep your circle very small, keep information tight to the chest, but also I try really hard to help people when they ask for it, even on the water. If someone approaches you, especially like a newer angler and they're struggling, I always even in a tournament, I've helped a lot of people cash checks and catch fish before. As long as they're honest and they're like, hey, I can't really feel, I don't really know what's going on, I can't catch anything, I'll be the first person to let them know kind of what they've been on, what I've been catching them on, and help somebody out. So there is that side of the tournament fishing too. It's always a good thing to try to help your fellow angler as long as they're respectful and communicative. Oh, and lastly, y'all, all of us lose big fish. Happens all the time. You didn't lose the winning bag. You didn't lose the winning fish because maybe the guy that won lost an even bigger fish. Don't go up to the person that won the tournament and tell them, well, I should have won the tournament, but I broke off 6 7-pounders. that's also a really bad look. You just didn't catch them. They did. Don't take away what they did by saying, you know, I lost this fish and this fish. And I get it. We all want to talk about fish that we lost, but ultimately it doesn't affect the tournament results. If all of us fished 100% clean, the results would look very, very different than how they end up. So that doesn't really do much. And a lot of times it can kind of just make you look a little salty when you're talking to someone who just actually won the tournament. So try to keep that in mind. Try to keep a positive attitude. Try to, again, communicate with people. And doing these things and building that character and working hard is going to make you a much better tournament angler. And it's going to have you it'll help you be more well respected in this industry and out in the water. So if y'all want to hear more videos like this, please let me know. Let me know what topics you want me to cover. Again, I'm not an expert per se, but I do have some good, valuable insight on an array of topics within the fishing world. I think about doing one on sponsorships next, how to acquire sponsorships, the do's and don'ts of sponsorships. I think that would be really helpful, and that's something that a lot of anglers and a lot of people really don't fully understand. So if you guys like this, please like, subscribe, leave me a comment. Thank y'all so much, and day 2 of the Kissimmee tournament is going to be up tomorrow. Stay warm out there with this winter storm, and then we'll catch you next time.